morning, ladies and gentlemen, Nuffield scholars. Farming needs new entrants to bring innovation and business vigour. Our challenge is how to achieve a best balance between the value contribution of established farmers and benefits of new entrants. There's plenty of people wanting to farm, but how can farming industry and landowners help the best to achieve success? After Michael's graphs and real great stuff about farming ladders, we're going to relax now and have a fairy story. Here I am, Rona, she's sweet, aged 18 months, not born on a farm, but decided by the grand old age of about 3 that I was going to be a farmer. Fortunately, I lived next door to a traditional pig farm where I spent many hours following for old Mr. Batts, a very patient old gentleman, learning useful practical skills. Mr. Batts never passed an exam. I don't believe he could even read and write. He had never left Oxfordshire, but he knew how to plant a hedge, snare a rabbit, and when the price of pigs collapsed, he knew what to do to carry on making a living. It's really useful skills. By the age of 18, I'd grown a bit, and I set up on my pre-college farm where I worked for the first few months being a girl, because nobody wants girls on farms, as you know, for £35 a week until my very patient boss, Philip Hook, decided I was good enough to earn a full student wage. I used to spend my lunch hours reversing trailers round and round the yard until I was determined that I was going to be better than everybody else. So there we go. Pop Adams, I met Neville. It's really embarrassed now. And aspiring inner city farmer from Sunderland, of all places, much to my dad's disappointment, with how many acres? No acres, no land, no money, but a weakness for redheads. So the next few years we spent working and saving hard, working on all sorts of different farms, enterprises for any farmer that we thought that would expand our knowledge. We also fattened some chickens. We never all had the experience of learning to pluck chickens. We kept some geese, we sold eggs, we kept a little flock of Hebridean sheep that used to get out always all over the place, and we just tried anything just to have a small enterprise that carried on going. 1999, we achieved my dream, my Neville's dream as well, our first farm, High Riscombe Farm, 180-acre Exmoor Hill farm. It's 1,400 feet, the house was at. It was a big house, big enough for bed and breakfast, which is yet another enterprise to try. It had no electricity. It had an average rainfall of over 85 inches. But I think the first year we were there in 1999, we had 109 inches of rain. So it was an interesting experience. But Exmoor's a great area, and we've got some great people. As Michael's already told you, grass is the way to go. And we worked really hard at our grazing management. That's Michael would be impressed to see. So, that's the sort of land we farmed. We were really proud of our farm, and but you know, we paid high rent on not very much, and production was obviously very poor. This is Mary Jean. She's off in Pocono Mountains. She farms for Jeff. They've got 100 acres in Pennsylvania, in Pocono Mountains. It's an area that was cleared back in 1865. It's a real little house in the big woods type area. But it's all pretty much reforested now for about the last 60 years, very residential. Not urban, because there's big areas of residential land or just left forest. They're trying to re-clear the farmland, and they've got these tiny, tiny fields where they're clearing the trees. And they have these great big huge boulders that are thrown up by the frost every year, and they drag them to the edge of the fields, and they've got these big, like, walls around the field, which are the boulders that come up with the heavy frost. They've put in a goat milking dairy, and we're producing goat's milk, raw goat's milk, and raw goat's cheese, which is seen as a real health benefit in the US. That's going to be their route into farming. As most of young new entrants, as Michael's already told you again, is capital is our biggest problem, and it all still is. We've never got any money. We're always complaining we're hard up. But this is Heidi. She's at a farmer's market. Heidi rents 47 acres of neglected, sort of like scrubby woodland in Pennsylvania, from Stroudsburg Township. She's got a good rent. She pays $1 a year, but it was completely neglected. Nobody did anything with it for years. She's worked really hard to clear 10 acres to produce vegetables, and it's a biodynamic market garden. And she crops all sorts of great produce. When I went, I spent quite a few days picking tomatoes. It was great. Heidi uses community support with agriculture model to provide her working capital. So what she's got is 80 customers a year in January sign up and pay their, I think it's $300 for the year's vegetable. So in January she's got the money to buy the seeds to plant it, but more importantly, she's got the customer that she knows is going to come each week. In my experience of selling poultry and all sorts of things, if I knew someone who's going to pick up a chicken each week that year and have that commitment, it would really help me with my forward planning, and it would help if I had the capital at the beginning of the year to grow those chickens. The financial support is really important, but the commitment from that customer to help that young farmer is also one of the chief motivators. And Heidi, she's great. She's a real well-motivated and really hard-working woman, really high-achieving woman. So with the collapse of sheep prices and the 2001 foot-and-mouth outbreak, because of course we do bed and breakfast, so of course that all finished, we needed really to diversify to survive on our farm. So our big plan was growing and processing organic poultry, and that was our way to make our business viable. Organic chickens, airy-fairy, of course, but has been really good for the Southwest. Lots of small dairy farmers that were struggling to find a way to get forward have put organic chickens in, mainly with a big processor, but of course, as usual, we do everything on our own. But this is Freddie. He grows organic chickens. At 19, he told me he really liked chickens. He's sort of changed his mind a little over the years. Freddie, at the age of 19, bought 25 acres from his dad to start his enterprise. After 3 years, with his business model to show that he could make a profit on doing contract farming, he managed to get temporary planning permission. He's now working towards getting permanent planning permission, and so by the age of 30, Freddie should be able to own his own house, built in a beautiful part of Devon that you wouldn't normally get a house in, and he should have his business, whether it's still chickens or whether he's got tired of chickens and moved on to the chemist, who knows. But that's a young farmer that's taken an opportunity of the marketplace and been able to take it forward. But Freddie is slightly different because he is not a first-generation farmer. He has a father, and he gets lots of advice from his father, also called Fred. But he also borrows a lot of his dad's equipment, and he borrows his dad's tractor a lot. And I think mostly he borrows his tractor all the time, because his dad has to borrow it back again. But this is another chicken farmer. I still want chickens and ducks. This is Dennis. He's down near Angers in France. He has 150 acres. He direct sells the chickens, but he also grows rabbits. He grows wheat, peas, farms sheep, and he's got guinea fowl as well. He got to start up, I think he started about 18 months ago. He had quite a considerable grant from the French government, and he also gets the low interest loan from the government as well as a starting farmer. He doesn't have a tractor. He doesn't have any equipment at all. He has no machinery. He has no costs of maintaining the machinery, maintaining the tractor, but he belongs to a machinery ring, and the machinery he buys in what hours he needs, and so he's got no capital tied up. And his tenants is very secure, as the French tenancies are. But he still sees it's quite a high-risk business, and to me, not being able to buy into that machinery ring would have made a real difference when we started farming. This is my friend David. He builds cows in Cheshire. He's a first-generation farmer. He had a 15-year farm business tenancy, and he had huge borrowings, bought cows and that were all with the farm. Works on his own all the time. He doesn't have any grants. He doesn't belong to a machinery ring. He's had to buy everything. He works alone most of the time. He doesn't often afford a relief milker. But he does belong to a buying group. And that buying group gives him the support. He gets cheap fertiliser and cheap feed, but he also gets advice from established farmers. He benchmarks his milk production to make sure he's doing the right thing. If he's got a problem, they get together and they go on farm visits and they help each other with discussion groups. But he finds time, because it's part of the buying group and part of where he started, he can find time to join that and he gets the benefits from it. We could have really done with some advice after 6 years on Exmoor, when our landlord decided, pretty much out of the blue, that he wanted to sell the farm. So, with newborn twins and getting fairly desperate, we secured a tenancy on a 57-acre Devon County Council farm, which is quite a few. Council farms are disappearing fast, but in Devon we still have a really healthy estate. They've got a new policy and they're very focused on how they're going to keep those council farms there. Council farms were originally bought for returning First World War veterans. They remain one of the few opportunities exclusively for new entrants and young farmers to get a foothold on the mythical family ladder. But county council farms are under threat as budgets are cut. They need to prove they are a step on that ladder, and progression of their occupants are encouraged to give a culture of really high achieving, and they are all the time encouraging us to progress, trying to get us to make sure that we are achieving these targets. We're not only expected to make really good margin and live off the farm, obviously, but we're also expected to contribute to the wider economy with school visits, environmental schemes, showcasing best practice. We can't just farm it, we've got to be exceptional farmers. But what do you produce on 57 acres? We produce all sorts of stuff. We do ducks, duck eggs, chickens, goats, new enterprise, beef, sheep, and actually in the last month I've been busy picking sloes to help the company in London to make the sloe gin for their customers. So we'll do anything, not crocodiles, these in Cambodia. But if we could, we will probably try them. To make our farm successful, we had to focus on what the customer wants. And that's the whole thing of our business. We're not price takers, we hope to be price makers, and we focus on what the customer wants and the supplier. Many of those the small businesses, the new farmers that I visited, were focused on the customer. They were food processors, they were farmers, but food processors and marketers. They were highly skilled in the whole range, whole spectrum of skills, because they had to be. It's no longer just good enough to produce a traditional commodity product as a new entrant. You just can't compete. You've got to be able to be coaxed and focused, and if the customer changes their taste, the successful producer will change the match. The successful new entrant, the successful producer knows that if the customer wants spiders, they'll produce them. Not yet in Devon, but you never know. So is the traditional tenancy the only opportunity? This lady is in India, she's part of a caste system that couldn't get credit, a village woman, they're unable to work. The caste system is overwhelming in India, it's so complicated. A scheme initiated by a local businessman that ran a large dairy farm. He was a local businessman with political ambitions, which was the main reason I think he was doing it. Allowed 200 village women to own their own cows. Working shifts, they paid a raw milk price. The company facilitates a loan to buy the cows and give them a chance to start a micro-farming business with no capital and no land. It's the simplest form of share farming, which we've already heard that provides great opportunities for expansion. So back in Devon, on a trust-owned farm managed by the Soil Association, there's a guy called Ben who's been in a share agreement for 4 years, but he feels that now is tying him down. I mean, he's trying to mature that on to a tenancy agreement. So how do small undercapitalised farms bring innovation to farming? Well, we may not be using the latest, most expensive technology, but here in Devon, where food is a county strategic industry, we've been selling just under £1 million of organic poultry a year. We've employed up to 5 local people. We provide chicken contracts for 2 growers, both young farmers. We provide local food of high quality, developing our own award-winning duck processing methods. We host school visits, and through our website and farmers markets, we are connecting and educating. We provide environmental innovation. With 9 fields and 57 acres, we have lots of hedges. So here they are. The Amiss family, working hard, not much money, but having fun, achieving a dream. So what next? Well, progression is our next step, but this is where the farming ladder showed us a whole.